Former DPWH District Engineer Henry Alcantara is reportedly denying involvement in ghost flood control projects despite previous claims of delivering kickbacks to lawmakers. Senator Ping Lacson meanwhile reacted by threatening perjury charges against those who alter their sworn statements. Pulse Asia reports that the media is now the nation's most trusted watchdog against flood control scandal, securing 54% public support. Meanwhile, President Marcos faces a crisis of confidence as nearly half of the population voiced low to no trust in his leadership on this issue. And the International Criminal Court has denied former President Duterte's request to appeal a ruling on his medical evaluation records. The decision blocks the defense from accessing communications with the expert panel and follows a recent denial of Duterte's bid for a supplementary medical report. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first in the agenda, former DPWH Bulacan District Engineer Henry Alcantara, who earlier claimed he personally delivered kickback money to lawmakers, is now reportedly denying any involvement in ghost flood control projects. Here is a report.
Former DPWH Bulacan District Engineer Henry Alcantara has reportedly changed his stance. According to reports, Alcantara denied in his counter affidavit that he had any involvement in any kickback scheme or ghost projects. This comes after Alcantara earlier revealed during a Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing that there were instances when he personally delivered money to some lawmakers. Alcantara also reportedly returned more than 181 million pesos to the Department of Justice as part of his restitution. The amount was said to be his commission from ghost flood control projects in Bulacan. Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Ping Lacson warned that anyone who withdraws their sworn statements may be charged with perjury. However, Lacson said he would not be surprised if someone had convinced Alcantara to reverse his statements. Despite this, Lacson expressed confidence that the cases against personalities implicated in the flood control kickbacks would not fall apart simply because of a retraction. Lacson stressed that Alcantara has already returned money and that former DPWH Assistant District Engineer Bryce Hernandez has also returned a vehicle to the government. Moves, he said, indicate an admission of their involvement in the anomaly. The next Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing on flood control is set on January 19. Malacanang has also issued a warning to former DPWH officials not to allow themselves to be used.
Wala po tayong personal knowledge on that. Pero muli, sa mga witnesses na maaaring makatulong sa bansa, huwag po kayong magpaloko dahil baka po lumabas na instant na kayo po ang maligtas dahil sa inyong mga katotohanan isisiwalat, kayo'y magamit at kayo pa ang mapunta sa kulungan. At ang inyong itinuturo na malalaking isda, sila pa po ang makawala.
According to the DOJ, they have not received any retraction of Alcantara's statements. At the present, the Department of Justice's preliminary investigation into complaints related to the flood control scandal is still ongoing, and the release of a resolution is still being awaited. The Ombudsman, for its part, said the issue appears to be mere noise. They said they will rely only on sworn statements.
More public works officials will get the axe for alleged irregularities over infrastructure projects, as confirmed by Secretary Vince Dizon. Gerard De La Peña with the report.
Heads rolled once more at the Public Works Department amid the controversy on anomalous flood control projects. Relieved from their posts were regional directors from the Ilocos Region, Calabar Zone, Bicol Region, and Central Visayas. Assistant regional directors from Mimaropa and Bicol Region also got the axe. And in Metro Manila, replacements are being arranged for the district engineers of Manila 3rd District and South Manila District.
We are officially relieving today for various reasons, no? Specifically because there are ongoing investigations here, which I cannot fully disclose to you. But suffice it to say, we are investigating a lot of people in the department.
The DPWH is also kicking out the OIC district engineers of La Union, Iloilo City, and Leyte for alleged failure to abide by the qualification standards of the Civil Service Commission. Also announced by the DPWH chief, he himself will testify against former Ako Bicol Party List Congressman Zaldico at the Sandigan Bayan on January 20. This is regarding the anomalous road dike in Oriental Mindoro, a project contracted to SunWest, which is a company founded by Co.
Dahil ako ang complainant sa marami sa mga kasong to, makikita nyo akong magtitistigo sa maraming mga kaso sa mga susunod na linggo, susunod na buwan.
Meantime, on the so-called Cabral files, Dizon reiterated that he never authorized Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste to get the documents. The files, supposedly from the late former Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral, showed how the system of allocables work, thus distributing infrastructure funds to congressional districts.
Ang may basbas sa akin, yung allocations per district. Pero yung pagkuha ng file sa isang computer, walang basbas sa akin yan.
With or without blessings, the Ombudsman now has a copy of the files which it may or may not release to the public. But to avoid any more issues with the allocables, the DPWH is completely ditching the system. Secretary Dizon says they're coming up with a new budgeting formula soon.
Pero ang punot dulo ng problemang yan is yung maling paglalagay ng mga proyekto sa budget. Paano nakakalusot ang mga proyektong dahil magkakasi ganito, si ganyan, nakakalusot na lang yung mga proyekto yun, ginagagay sa budget. Kahit na walang plano, kahit na hindi ini-endorso ng mga regional development councils, I think by next week, Undersecretary Conti's team, ang ating bagong Undersecretary for Planning, will be ready with the new formula, with the new system of how we make sure that items in budgets, projects in the budgets are really projects that are absolutely necessary and that are not just there because people want to steal money.
Dizon also shared his agency's priority projects this year, including the rehabilitation of EDSA, now in full swing, and the repair of C5, which had suffered a lot of wear and tear from use of heavy vehicles and trucks for decades. And those bridges and roads that are already taking years to fix, these will all have to be finished before 2026 ends.
Papatunayan natin na kahit mababa ang budget ng DPWH kumpara sa ibang mga taon, mas marami tayong magagawa, mas marami tayong maaayos, mas marami tayong ma-repair, at gagawin natin ng maayos, ng tama, ng mabilis, at ng mas mura pa.
For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, We Are One News.
Independent Commission for Infrastructure Special Advisor Rodolfo Azurin Jr. said that the commission has yet to receive any notice from Malacanang about its possible dissolution. In an interview with our sister program Storycon, Azurin noted that the ICI cannot fully function or hold hearings with vacant commissioner positions.
In the event po na they deem it na ganun nga po ang i-terminate na nila o i-abolish ang ICI because they feel na parang may duplication po ng function, wala ko tayong magagawa.
Azurin added that the commission plans to formally write to the president should new commissioners be considered for appointment. Despite the vacancies, he said investigations into other flood control projects continue.
I suggested nga po kay chairman namin na I think we need to write the Office of the President and ask them if they already have a replacement po sa mga commissioners namin. So far, tuloy pa rin naman po yung mga ginagawa natin pag-imbestiga dun sa mga ibang mga flood control projects at mga infrastructures.
Malacanang declined to speculate on the reported impeachment plans against President Bongbong Marcos. Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro said there is no confirmed move to impeach the president. She also described the alleged plan as unsubstantiated. Caloocan Representative Ega Elise earlier said that an impeachment complaint against President Marcos could be filed once Congress resumes session in February.
Ang Pangulo po, unang-una, hindi po siya nagnakaw ng pera. Pangalawa, siya po ang nagpapaimbestiga sa mga maaanumalyang flood control projects. Pangatlo, wala po siyang Mary Grace Piatos.
Up next, the camp of former President Rodrigo Duterte has failed to challenge an ICC ruling concerning the confidentiality of his medical assessment. We'll discuss this and more with ICC-accredited lawyer Attorney Gilbert Andres when Morning Matters returns. Keep it here in One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. The International Criminal Court Pre-Trial Chamber 1 has rejected former President Rodrigo Duterte's bid to appeal a ruling on communications between the court's registry and a panel of medical experts. The decision follows a December 11, 2025 resolution denying Duterte full access to communications with the three-member panel appointed to examine his medical condition. The defense argued that the chamber had not assessed the materiality of the communications or the risks of non-disclosure. On January 7, the chamber also rejected Duterte's request for an additional expert report on his medical condition. Joining us to discuss the latest developments from the ICC, we have Attorney Gilbert Andres, an ICC accredited lawyer. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Attorney?
Magandang umaga, Gretchen.
There you go. Okay. First of all, there are several developments coming from the ICC. The first, which was in that report, the ICC Pre-Trial Chamber 1 rejecting the disclosure of communications between the ICC registry and the panel of medical experts. What was the rationale for the request coming from the defense?
Well, the defense wanted to use it for their own purposes. They wanted to use it, whether to check how the report was actually produced. And suma total nito, gusto nilang malaman kung ano po yung naging communication between the registry and the panel of experts. But this was denied. This request was denied by the pretrial chamber, and their appeal, their request for leave to appeal was also denied.
Oo, yun nga yung gusto ko itanong, what is the request for leave to appeal?
Okay, ganito kasi, Gretchen, hindi kasi lahat ng mga issues ay pwedeng automatic i-appeal. Oo. So, base sa Article 58, yung incidental issue lang kasi ito, kasi as of now, the pretrial chamber has not yet decided on the fitness to stand trial. So, dahil incidental lang po siya, kailangan po ng leave, kailangan po ng approval ng pretrial chamber para mag-appeal. At kailangan po i-justify ng defense yun based sa Article 58 of the Rome Statute. Kaya yun, nagkaroon po ng request for leave to appeal yung defense, which was denied by the pretrial chamber.
Oh, but what could have happened down there in the communications that the defense would have wanted oversight on? Bakit kaya parang did they want to understand the language in this in the way the medical report was requested? Help us understand.
The way that the defense was trying to argue is that they want to also know kung ano yung communications between the registry and the expert, so that they will know, apparently, allegedly, kung merong mga other instructions, kung naapektuhan ba essentially yung results ng expert panel. But I'd also like to point out, Gretchen, that according to the pretrial chamber, the defense already has a inkling on what those communications were kasi naka-indicate din po siya dun sa naging expert panel report, which the defense has a copy of. That's the reason why the pretrial chamber denied this request for disclosure.
Okay, kasi dito sa I do remember one of the things that they tested for was the truthfulness of being able to assess one's own health, Parang may ganun na exam, 'di ba? Yung parang very basic. I think it was a coin test.
Performance.
Yun, oo. So do you think that was one of the goals, to be able to look kung may request ba na ganun, to assess the ability to yung truthfulness in performance with all of the medical exams?
that may be one of those, but it's really difficult to divine. Mahirap talagang mahulaan anong gusto ng defense. Kasi in the first place, this is only an incidental issue. Hindi pa ito yung merits ng fitness to stand trial kasi hindi pa naman siya na-decide ng pre-trial chamber. So dahil incidental issue lang po ito, hindi po grant ng pre-trial chamber yung request for leave to appeal.
So kumbaga hindi na makakarating ito sa appeals chamber. Okay. There was another request by the defense which was to have the court-appointed doctors to come up with an urgent report focusing on the risks that he faces amid proceedings for his crimes against humanity case. This was also rejected. What was the reason for this request?
Okay, yung yung request na yan is for the expert panel to also give the report on the supposed risk for an interim release. Kasi remember, there are 3 types of risk, for na dinidetermine, when an application for interim release is being applied for. Una, the risk of flight. Second, the risk of affecting the investigation. And the third is the risk of committing the crimes charged. But as you know, Gretchen, these are actually legal terms. These are not medical terms. So I think the pre-trial chamber has thought na hindi naman to sakop actually ng original scope ng dapat i-determine ng 3-person expert panel. Ang 3-person expert panel ay magdi-determine lang po ng mga issues ng medical condition ni Mr. Duterte. Kaya labas na po ito. Kaya po, I think that's the reason, at the heart of it, that's the reason why this request was denied by the pretrial chamber.
Okay. And added to that, the defense also has asked again for interim release for Duterte on the same grounds as the initial filing, but this time attaching a medical report from experts on Duterte's health when it comes to those risks that you talked about, yung tatlo po niyan, related to interim release. Did this medical report come from their own medical expert panel? If the request to get that report from court-appointed doctors was denied, itong medical report na inattach po dun sa bagong filing for interim release, did it come from the Duterte side?
Yes, I think so, Gretchen. And in fact, that report that was attached by the defense is also confidential. So we don't really know what was the contents of that report. But based on the allegations of the defense, based yun sa experts nila. But again, ang challenge kasi dito, yung problema kasi dito, yung defense, hinahalo nila yung issue ng interim release at yung issue ng fitness to stand trial. But ang pre-trial chamber, siniseparate po yung issues na to kasi hindi po sila magkahalo-halo po, maguguluhan po lahat po. Kaya yung issue po ng fitness to stand trial, hindi pa po na-determine ng pre-trial chamber, pero yung issue po ng interim release, na-determine na yun ng appeals chamber, na-deny na po yan. But meron pong review process, and in fact, the pre-trial chamber has asked for comments, observations, both from the victims as well as from the prosecutor, from the Office of the Public Counsel for Victims, as well as from the defense. Kaya yun po yung proseso ngayon, yung review po with respect sa interim release.
But what I do know is that this has been rejected already by the appeals chamber, and you would need another 120 days to review the ruling. So, wala pa tayo sa 120 days, hindi po ba?
Yes.
Oo.
Okay, tama ka dyan, Gretchen, 120 days. But this will be reckoned dun sa pag-decision ng pretrial chamber. I think more or less it was September. So 4 months from September, so October, November, December, January. More or less January 27 po yan, yung 128,
malapit
120th day. If I'm not mistaken po ng comments at observations yung pre-trial chamber, bago pa man po yung 120th day pong yun.
So do we expect this to happen over and over again over the span of the former president's detention over at the ICC, that they will challenge this interim release ruling and based on again medical grounds, mostly medical grounds?
Oo. On the part of defense, hindi ko po mahulaan ano pong magiging hakbangin nila. But on the procedure po ng ICC, nandun po yan sa Rule 18 ng Rules of Procedure na every 120 days ay magkakaroon po ng review, and at least once a year magkakaroon po ng review vis-a-vis the issue po ng continued detention ng isang suspect po.
Now, going to that medical report that they attached to this new interim release request, would you have any idea how they were able to get that medical assessment? May pumasok ba ulit ng mga bagong set ng doctors from the Duterte panel? Is that allowed?
Actually, mahirap talaga sabihin kung anong naging procedure, no? Kasi these are confidential matters. But I think ito pa po yung from the start, na expert na kinuha po ng defense. That's my hypothesis po. But as to really how to determine it, remember these are covered by confidentiality due to the privacy of health matters. Kaya it's really difficult to guess.
Now, regarding the issue that you brought up a while ago, na pinaghahalo yung dalawang kaso ng fitness to stand trial, pati yung interim release request, I would like to go into the arguments made by the defense. The first ground on granting interim release is the ability to evade supervision. The defense team has argued that the former president lacks executive functioning, sustained planning capacity, rapid decision-making, physical stamina, and consequently, the ability to evade supervision. Kaufman said yung capacities ng presidente are either clearly compromised or practically unavailable in his current condition. Do you agree? I mean, what would you say to that?
Well, I disagree with that because in fact, based din sa defense observation, dati pa, they quoted, indirectly the expert panel which states that Mr. Duterte is competent to actually participate in pretrial proceedings. So, ang mahalaga lang po, mayroon po siyang kakayahan para maintindihan po yung mga charges sa kanya at para maintindihan po yung kanyang rights. And again, this is a separate issue, yung fitness to stand trial, pati po yung interim release. Kasi yun nga, pinaghahalo-halo nila na dapat po hindi nila pinaghalo-halo. Kaya yung pre-trial chamber, ayaw din pong paghalo-haluin yan. Kasi yung flight risk po, iba po ang determination po niyan. That's a legal term at hindi lang po yan directly related po sa sa
kalusugan ng Pangulo,
health ng isang tao o sa condition ng isang tao. Kaya po hindi po pinaghalo-halo yan yung dalawang na yan ng pre-trial.
Kumbaga, ina-argue nila na hindi naman tatakas ng dating Pangulo kasi kumbaga hindi na niya nakaya tumakas. That was the argument of the defense when it comes to an interim release request, which does not really give him the freedom but allows him to stay in another country that would host him. The other argument here on the threat to witnesses and integrity of the investigation, sabi ng defense na such a risk would require sustained attention, initiative, organizational skills, and ability to coordinate intermediaries, capacities that the former president lacks at present. As representative of the victims, what would you say about that?
Well, actually, kung tingnan natin yung appeals chamber, no, dinenay na nga yung appeal, base na rin po sa tinatawag na network of supporters na ni Mr. Duterte. So, at yung influence po ni Mr. Duterte. So, I think for the part of the victims, talagang meron talagang anxiety kung magkaroon po ng interim release for Mr. Duterte dahil siya po ay influential pa rin po at hindi lang po siya, pati po ang kanyang pamilya. Kaya po for the victims po, they were very thankful po na hindi po nag-grant yung application for interim release at ganun pa rin po ang kanilang prayer po na hindi po mag-grant yung any request for interim release.
And for potential or regarding the risk for continued offending by the detained person, ang sabi naman ng defense na yung impaired executive functioning ng dating Pangulo, the lack of sustained attention, and inability to plan and sequence his daily activity would negate the ability to oversee complex chains of command. Do you think the president, the former president, has the capacity at this point to continue crimes against humanity, given his state?
Well, in the first place, yung allegations of alleged impaired executive functions, sa defense lang po yan, hindi po yan yung conclusion ng expert panel kasi in the first place, sabi nga ng expert panel, Mr. Duterte is competent to participate sa pretrial proceedings. So I don't think that should be a factor that should be considered dun sa third factor kasi ang issue dito yung kakayahan at mayroon pa rin pong mga probability. Kasi Gretchen, yung test lang naman talaga dun sa 3 flight risk is not the certainty. It's only the possibilities chamber in Napoleon na mayroong possibility na pwedeng mangyari yung 3 risks na yon if there's an interim release.
I was looking at another document yesterday coming from the ICC, was just released, parang victims' view of I think the health of the president. I could not understand that document well, no? Pero it did talk about the confirmation of charges and that it might happen soon. So, kailan nyo ho inaasahan itong confirmation of charges? At for us to remember, since we've gone through so many issues ahead of that, what should we expect to happen in the confirmation of charges hearing?
Okay, first, we should first expect na magkaroon po ng decision yung pretrial chamber on the issue of fitness to stand trial. Now, the chamber na fit nga si Mr. Duterte to stand trial. So, yun na po yung mag-schedule po ng confirmation of charges. Now, kailan po yan? Talagang mahirap pong hulaan, but hopefully, early this year po. At yung calendar po ng ICC is January 27 is the opening of the judicial calendar po ng ICC. Kaya yun po yung mga antabayanan po natin.
Okay, so fitness to stand. Pero sa confirmation of charges, anong gagawin doon?
Okay, dun sa confirmation of charges, the prosecutor will actually present evidence na magsasabi na dapat ituloy na po sa trial proper. So yun po yung pinaka-issue dun sa confirmation of charges na i-prove niya po yung charge 1, 2, and 3 na dapat po ituloy po to trial proper yung counts 1, counts 2, and counts 3 po against Mr. Duterte.
Okay, and the prosecution has submitted 1,303 pieces of evidence. to the camp of former President Duterte over the last 7 months of 2025. What is contained in those pieces of evidence?
Okay, yung latest na disclosure ng prosecutor is relevant with respect sa mga elements of the crimes against humanity. It's also relevant dun sa mode of life charges, at it's also relevant dun sa potential na defense ni Mr. Duterte, kasi remember, the prosecutor is also duty-bound by the Rome Statute to also include evidence that may exonerate the suspect. Kaya patas lang po ang pagtingin ng prosecutor, both yung incriminating as well as yung exonerating evidence. Ngunit, the prosecutor has emphasized in the latest disclosure na hindi po ito yung mga evidence that will be presented dun sa confirmation of charges.
Bakit mahalaga yung ganong distinction?
Mahalaga yung ganong distinction para full disclosure, kasi Gretchen, dun sa ICC walang taguan ng ebidensya, at full disclosure din kung anong i-present ng prosecutor sa every step of the way, including confirmation of charges. Kaya mahalaga po talaga yung disclosure duties ng prosecutor as well as ng defense and all parties po.
In simple talk, ipinakita na yung ebidensya, lahat ng ipipresent sa ICC pretrial chamber, but not to the defense yet. At hindi ipapakita sa sa confirmation of charges.
Actually, pinakita na yun sa defense, pero in-indicate lang ng prosecutor.
Okay.
Na hindi po ito yung mga evidence na ipipresent sa confirmation of charges. Pero pinakita po, nilalabas po ng prosecutor yung lahat po ng barahan ito sa defense po. Kaya wala pong puwang ang defense para sabihin hindi namin alam yan.
Okay.
Kasi talagang full disclosure for all the parties.
A lot of decisions coming out of the ICC. Thank you for helping us break them down and understand the legal jargon surrounding all of these issues. We got the health issue, we got the jurisdiction issue, and the interim release issue, and also the upcoming confirmation of charges, all hopefully within the year. Maraming salamat for your time today, and explaining all of that to us. We have ICC accredited lawyer, Attorney Gilbert Andres. And coming right up, according to the latest Pulse Asia survey, the media is the nation's preferred watchdog for overseeing flood control funds. The findings also highlight that President Bongbong Marcos is struggling to gain ground, as a substantial 48% of the public expresses distrust in his leadership regarding the ongoing flood control controversy. We'll unpack this with political strategist Malu Dikia when we come back after a quick break. Keep it here in One News. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Won here in Morning Matters. We talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind headlines. A recent Pulse Asia survey shows media as the most trusted institution to address corruption and flood control projects. 54% of the respondents say they trust the media, while 47% trust civil society and non-government organizations. The Senate and the House are trusted by 37% and 31% of adult Filipinos, respectively, when it comes to the infrastructure probe. The Office of the Ombudsman, the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, and the DPWH got the least total big trust ratings in managing the scandal. Meanwhile, confidence in the administration remains low, as only 30% of Filipinos said they trust President Bongbong Marcos to address the flood control corruption. A whopping 48% expressed low to no trust and 22% undecided. This is slightly unchanged from the same survey findings on September 20 to 25, where 32% of Filipinos expressed trust in the current government to deal with the issue. And joining us now to weigh in on this, we have Malu Tikia, political strategist, to help us make sense of the latest Pulse Asia survey. Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Malu.
Magandang umaga, Gretchen. Magandang umaga sa iyong mga tagapakinig.
Okay, una-una, no, what does it say about public sentiment when survey results point to the media as the most trusted institution to handle corruption? What are your thoughts on the results of that survey?
Well, it's actually going back to the original role of media, mainstream media, which is a gatekeeper and national agenda setting. I think it is very important because there are certain documents and certain data that are made through the media and not necessarily shared to everyone. That's why it is becoming a very important tool insofar as the flood control projects are concerned.
But how do you view the handling of media in this landscape now of this issue? Are you happy with how this issue is being covered?
Happy? No, because there can be other documents. I mean, the investigative role of media is very important. Until now, 200 days plus has lapsed since the declaration of Mahiya Naman Kayo, and we haven't seen really the small committee proponents that actually was the original sin that came in the GAA 2025. So there's not much there. There's not much on the BBM paramedial formula that was authored. Parametric that was authored by Yusek Cabral. I think it behooves on media to really dissect what she left behind and what she tried putting together in 2022, early 2022 of July. So these things need to be pieced together so that the public will be able to see what really happened. The other thing that is missing is really a dissection of the Ilocos Norte as well as the Leyte locables or insertions, and it hasn't come true. So there are certain things that are given focus too much, while the more important pieces of the puzzle to come up with a macro view of what really happened has not been done.
48% expressed little to no trust on the president in handling this, yet he was the one who opened the can of worms. Do you think that the president has somehow lost control over where this has gone?
Yes, I do agree with you that he started a campaign without defining the exits. He started the campaign without really understanding the terrain. And like what happened to ICI, we're down to a one-member commission that is going nowhere. The Senate all of a sudden stopped their Blue Ribbon committee hearings, and belatedly they are trying to come back with a different painting on the canvas. So when you come up with a plan such as an anti-corruption drive, you need to be able to define the plan, the objective end, and really not just divert it to the top 15 contractors, naming certain legislators, and not adding the rest.
Isa sa mga inaasahan ng taong bayan, syempre, ay may mahuli na big fish. And I had Ronald yesterday here on the show. Sabi niya, kapag walang nailabas na o nahuli, napakulong na big fish before the EDSA anniversary on February 22 to 25, asahan na lalabas na naman ang taong bayan. Do you think the public anger is still at its peak, or this has somehow diffused over the holidays?
Sa tingin ko, tumigil dahil meron tayong celebration. Alam mo naman, Gretchen, ang Pasko at ang New Year, big time sa Pilipino yan. Pero, mabilis ang pagpasok ng Enero. We're just on our 13th day of the year, and there's a lot of political noise, a lot of political movements, a lot of trying to make sense on the December 15 deadline, that the big fish, di ba, sabi niya, may mga hindi masaya Pasko sa dadating na December 15. But nobody, we don't see any big fish. I agree with Ronald, the few times I agree with him, na importante yung big fish. Pero masyado naman siya mabait na iminove niya yung deadline sa Pebrero. Dapat ngayon palang Enero, meron ng makulong, meron ng makasuhan, at merong hindi dilis. Talagang malaking isda. So that you can probably hazard the conclusion that seryoso ang presidente. Yung sinasabing, ako nga ang nag-lead nito ng anti-corruption drive, ako nga, yung linya nila na siya lang sa lahat ng presidente, mukha namang hindi tama yon kasi si Presidente Noynoy tumakbo dahil sa anti-corruption at buong 6 years niya, anti-corruption yung ginagawa.
A lot of the results of this probe hangs on the Ombudsman's office. At dahil nga itong ICI, kulang ng commissioner, hindi makapagtuloy ng kanilang sesyon. Ombudsman ang inaasahan dito na mag-iimbestiga. Yun nga lang, pag tinignan natin ang Pulse Asia survey results, trust rating is at 28%, much lower than the 39% it earned in the previous polling period. Would you trust the Office of the Ombudsman to handle this probe with such a critical role? Well, the Constitution says they are the one mandated to do that. Pero if it is not the Ombudsman, then who? What are your thoughts on where this probe is going and who should be the one entrusted with that probe?
Kung siguro hindi si Secretary Boying Remulla ang na-appoint na ombudsman, I will trust the institution. But since he is a politician and he will render judgment to his colleagues in the House of Representatives and some of his friends in the Senate, I would want to see the evidence and the complaint that will be filed. He was saying it will take him 6 to 9 months to even consider a complaint against former Speaker Martin Romualdez, and there is talk now that probably a civil case will be filed. Alam mo, Gretchen, dapat pakinggan nila ang resulta ng mga surveys. Hindi ko sinasabing sundan. 3 survey firms na yan nagsabi na mababa ang tiwala. Hindi pare-pareho ang aming numero, pero pag gumawa ka ng trend analysis, makikita mo pareho ang binabagsakan. Na gumuho ang tiwala ng tao sa presidente, gumuho ang tiwala ng tao sa kabinete. Kaya yung mga ginagawang programa, lumalabas na hindi namin ikaw pinagtitiwalaan. Kung yun dun sa tanong mo, who would people trust? I would go with institutions and not personalities, but the institutions need to perform accordingly. The ombudsman, the current ombudsman, has said a lot, and the words are not equated equally with actions. No, so kailangan siguro makita ng tao na yung kaseryosohan, quote-unquote, ng Pangulo ay natutumbasan ng kaseryosohan rin ng ICI at ng Ombudsman. Yung ICI, na kay Pangulo yan para i-abolish kasi dun sa EO 94, sinasabi dun, si Presidente ang may say. Merong panukala para sa Independent Commission sa House of Representatives at sa Senado. Hindi ko alam kung yan ay magiging priority in the light of what is happening to ICI.
But compared to the previous ombudsman, isn't the current one a little bit more transparent about what's happening in the office? At pangalawa, he has said that there is reinvigorated energy when it comes to the office of the ombudsman. Marami raw pong mga batang nag-a-apply, no, to be part of that team. They are going to make that office bigger, and the ombudsman has said that their goal is to come up with airtight cases that will lead to convictions, that he will not spare even his blood if it leads to that. Kapag yung may ebidensya na talagang magtuturo dito sa mga guilty sa flood control probe.
Gretchen, that's good. All those plans are welcome by the public. I welcome them. Surely it leads to institutional strengthening. But plans need to be seen in the light of actual rollout, actual implementation. Just like what they claim on GAA 26. They said it's the cleanest budget. If you do a line item analysis, it's not. But the challenge there is, how do you implement when you branded it as the cleanest? Will there be full discretion by the president? Will the discretion be regulated? Will Congress do an oversight? So ganun din sa ombudsman. Totoo na siguro nagsimula siya ng mas maayos kisa dati, lalo na dun sa usapin ng SALN. Pero babalik tayo, yung SALN ba nakita ng lahat? Hindi ba naging depende sa individual kung gusto nilang i-share? So, or magre-request ka. So, anong pinagkaiba nung SALN nung panahon ng dati at panahon ngayon? Although nag-declare siya na ang SALN can be requested by anyone. Yeah.
Okay, now there's another thing that we're watching out for, and that is the movements in the House for impeachment complaints. There are possibly 2 impeachment complaints that will be filed. Para po sa inyo, what are you hearing about that? And ano kaya mas malakas ang force behind it? Kahapon nga si Ronald, kausap ko, sabi niya itong impeachment complaint against the Vice President, may mga resibo, no? May yung Mary Grace Piatos and all of those documents. Whereas when it comes to the President, it seems to be the issue here is command responsibility. Yung actual trail of evidence is not yet there.
Siguro hintayin natin yung i-file, no? Mahirap naman mag-speculate kung ano yung mga charges na iaatang sa presidente. If the charges that were filed before will be the same charges that will be filed for the vice president, then I think you have a very ready and capable legal team of the vice president that could go through all those things, no? Critical dates, January 26, which is the resumption of Congress, and February 6, which is the Supreme Court mandated date for the filing of the second impeachment of the Vice President. Again, impeachment is an accountability tool. Anybody can file that. It would have to undergo with the House Committee on Justice. Now, if there will be 2 impeachment cases that will be filed, the Committee on Justice will have to really perform itself. Second, impeachment is a court of public opinion, and impeachment is a numbers game. For it to go to the Senate, you'd have to have those numbers in, so there can be a trial, no? So the 20th Congress will be challenged more and to perform well when it comes to these 2 impeachment cases. We've never had an impeachment of the 2 highest officials almost at the same time, no? If it happens, I hope there will be no constitutional crisis, and I hope, because the economy just cannot handle that, and I hope it will be managed well, because again, the political climate is increasing, it's becoming hot, and when 2 camps who used to be united are now at loggerheads, nakakaawa ang taong bayan.
But to your estimate, what is the possibility of getting to that battlefield, the impeachment court opening up once again for this? Won't that keep the House's hands full kapag dalawang impeachment complaint ang nakalusot o kahit isa lang? And do you share the sentiment of Ronald when he says that 2026 will determine 2028? Ganito ka-crucial itong taon ito.
Oh yes, second point na nag-agree ako kay Ronald. Totoo yun, no? Sa karir ko, never masyado ako nag-agree kay Ronald. Pero totoo yun, 2026 is a determinant year because most of those planning to campaign for the 2028 elections will have to announce their intention by December 2026. So all these things leading up to that announcement date is very crucial. Yun nga lang, sa tingin ko napakahirap basahin kung magkasabay yung dalawa kasi napakahirap ang neutrality doon, no? Doon sa kay presidente may mga pinofloat tungkol sa PhilHealth, sa PDIC, sa flood control, yung kay so that means total of 3 years when you talk of 1.3 trillion. When you talk of the vice president, you're referring to the 650 million which was already ruled by the COA and guided by the memorandum on the use of confidential funds. So let's see how it will play. It's going to be really exciting. Sinabi ng isang congressman, exciting daw ang pagpasok ng Pebrero. I agree with that.
Other things that we should watch out for 2026?
Well, ako, Gretchen, ang tinitingnan ko ng maigi is the budget, how it will be implemented because may pending na kinasuhan na yung unprogrammed appropriations, no? Ang unprogrammed appropriations, wala yung pondo. So para mo i-veto ang walang pondo says a lot about the leader, and para mo i-veto yung nasa NEP mo, again, says a lot about the leader. So let's see how it will be implemented. Things to look after to look into are the AIX, the MAIF, na wala na daw endorsement na nasulat, and then there is the biggest in the history of budgetary politics is the 1.7 trillion allocation for DepEd, no? And then siguro ang pinaka-importante doon yung talk about the cabinet revamp na naman. So habang tayo lumalapit sa January 26, there are talks about certain cabinet secretaries being asked to retire and getting more people to handle the last 3 years of this administration.
Okay. We're running out of time. I know you need to go, but marami pa sana ako itatanong. But I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for helping us start the year here on Morning Matters. We have a political strategist, Malu Tikia, weighing in on the latest political developments.
Salamat!
Cebu City officials say they are doing everything possible to rescue those buried in the landfill collapse. Mayor Nestor Arquival said extreme caution is being exercised to avoid further burying of the victims. The mayor said the tragedy should serve as a wake-up call to tighten landfill permitting and inspection. Meanwhile, Senator Amy Marcos has ordered a Senate investigation to determine accountability and to assess whether the collapse may be linked to the September earthquake in Cebu. The death toll in the Cebu City landfill collapse had hit 8.
We cannot just simply cut the pieces because, number one, there is actually gas spewing. If we have the big spark, then it will catch fire. Then that would be very disastrous to the people who are trapped and at the same time to our rescuers.
Manila Electric Company or Meralco announced another reduction in electricity rates this January. The new adjustment lowers charges by 16.37 centavos, bringing the overall rate for a typical household to 12.95 pesos per kilowatt hour. This translates to around 33 pesos in savings for households consuming 200 kilowatt hours. Meralco said that the lower transmission charge contributed to the overall rate cut. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Hall. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.